who are just preparing to live stream. Thank you, we're live. Okay, good evening. A very warm welcome to all of you joining us live online on Thursday, the 18th of May. My name is Marcus Green. I'm Chief Exec of Action on Pre-Eclampsia, and I'm with four genuinely inspiring, interesting guys who have all had different experiences with pre-eclampsia. My role as Chief Exec of the charity is really to give these guys a chance to tell you their stories, tell you what they've been involved in, and how they've become involved in Action on Pre-Eclampsia. So I'm going to give you guys a chance just to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about it. So Paul, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about you. How come you're involved with Action on Pre-Eclampsia?
Hi guys, hi world, I'm Paul Bent. Went through the pregnancy process where my partner at the time went through pre-eclampsia, which caused a traumatic birth. So then decided to write a book, which is called Help, but not the misspelling help. Help is in, help syndrome. I'm going to be a dad, which Marcus is kindly displaying for you all. So I wanted to partner with a charity which, had this like shared beliefs. Luckily they work very closely with St. George's Hospital, which is where my son was born, Hunter. So I thought it was a perfect fit, and luckily they've supported me, helped me through the process, guided me. So really pleased to be a part of this podcast with fellow dads and obviously APEC as well.
Paul, that's great. We talk a lot about pre-eclampsia and what that is. Help's ever so slightly different. What was your experience with Help?
Well, I mean, reading up about it, it's actually a more severe, I think with pre-eclampsia, there's sort of measures where, it can be not controlled, but managed over a period of time and assess. Help, you need to deliver baby immediately because the readings and the observations done are too inconsistent, and it's a threat to baby and mum's life. So the baby had to come out immediately. So that caused other, emergency C-sections and other obviously complications.
And mum and baby are now both doing okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. Mark, you're up in Coventry. We've got to know you over the last few months. Tell us a little bit about how you've come to be involved.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here. And so my involvement actually came off the back of me completing my first ever marathon last October, and my wife decided to put me in for another marathon literally the 24 hours after completing the first one, because she obviously wanted to see me go through the pain again. But we wanted to try and do London Marathon because it was going back to the April date. And we wanted to almost look at charities which meant a little bit to us. So we stumbled across you guys, and yeah, it's been incredible since then, to be honest, because of course, from my personal story and personal experience, both me and my wife's similar to Paul, my wife suffered with HELLP syndrome as well. So it meant that we had our first son 6 weeks early. So we were both quite young as well. So the kind of knowledge around it was like non-existent. I'll be honest, at the time, I thought it was a normal procedure to go through. I didn't know anything was like really wrong, but luckily we managed to get through it. My eldest son now is 7. I've got another son who is 4. Wife is absolutely fine, and like I say, now we've come across this charity. It's been incredible to be a part of something which, it relates very much to our story, but then also connect with other people with their stories and what's happened to them. And you can just relate, which is incredible, because sometimes when you go through something like that, you can feel like you're the only person, especially as a dad, because you're not fully involved, and that's after that, it was quite difficult. So I know like the importance of this. I did the London Marathon, obviously, for you guys in April, which was incredible. And yeah, I'm fully involved with everything we're doing going forward, because a huge part of what I'm doing now. So thank you again.
No, delighted to have you on board. And Stuart, you were another one of our marathon runners this year, and it was your second year running for APEC. So can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to APEC stores?
Yeah, definitely. How you doing, guys? And again, Marcus and everyone, thanks for having us. I really appreciate it. So my name's Stuart. My wife's name's Amy, and my wife's type 1 diabetic. So with a lot of ladies with type 1 diabetes during pregnancy, there can be a lot of complications. And Amy's been type 1 diabetic since she's been a little girl, injecting a synthetic insulin to ultimately produce insulin to keep her alive. So during the birth of my first son, Camden's he was born in December, sort of 4.5 years ago. He was born at 29 weeks and our waters broke very early. And we didn't really think too much about it other than it was diabetes related. But now, after what's happened with my second son, we think it may actually have been the start of pre-eclampsia. However, Camden was born 29 weeks and that was stressful enough. He was only under 3 pounds. And thankfully, he pulled through and he's happy and healthy and he's in his next room just now. I can hear his iPad as he does. And when we attempted to have a second kid, we just thought it couldn't be any worse than that because it was so stressful. We were in, intensive care with Cam for months and they came out really well. We thought, it could not be any worse than that. And Amy, we became pregnant again. When we got to 24 weeks, Amy's blood pressure was just getting higher and higher. And thankfully, we had a blood pressure machine in the house. So I just thought she was being a bit, I was like, nah, it's all right, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And then I tested my blood pressure in my arm and my arm was absolutely fine. And I thought, oh my God, we'll need to go down to the hospital. And the hospital confirmed it's very, very rare to have the start of pre-eclampsia at 24 weeks. We don't think it is pre-eclampsia. But as the more tests they done on her, the more we realised that it was the start of pre-eclampsia, and then just more symptoms came on, and it got so severe that there and then, like I know Paul, you said like the HELP syndrome, it was there and then. It was within like 24 hours, I think it was. So I think it was a version of HELP or whatever as well. We were told it was so severe. I mean, that they basically said to us at the time that she might go into a coma and she might not make it herself. And my wee boy was born. His name was Clark. He was born too early, and he was tiny, and he lived for 13 days and sadly passed. And he just wasn't big enough, and his lungs just weren't well enough developed, and that was that's what happened to Clark, unfortunately. So after that, I just was like, it was so traumatic and terrible and heartbreaking, and I was absolutely devastated. I couldn't believe it. I went from my happiest moment I've ever been in my life to my saddest, And after that, I just kind of was like, I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I just thought the best thing I can do is just kind of stick to my fitness. I've always been trying to keep myself in shape, and which I did. Get back to work early, and then I reached out to the charity and I spoke to Marcus and I just said, look, I don't really know why I'm calling you right now, I don't know. And you just kind of were dead nice and helpful, and to say that we've all been through this kind of stuff as well, and I thought it was so nice, And then on the back of that, you basically said, would you like to run the marathon with your little boy's picture on your chest? And I just thought I couldn't think anything better to do for him, So that's what I decided to do. And then I ran I raised a lot of money last year, and we did the golf day. We raised some good money for that, which was brilliant. And then my friend said he would do the marathon with me, which was incredible. And that was it. We went doing my mate Graham last year in October, and we ran the marathon together, man. And my family came down and watched us, and I felt it was really good. I felt the marathon was brilliant for me. Just felt it really cleared my head and gave me a bit of, just made me feel a lot mentally stronger, and I was connected to my son. I was doing something for him. And then again, the marathon came around so soon again, and it was like, do you want to do it again? And I thought, oh man, I couldn't really think of doing it again, to be honest with you. And my mate was like, oh, I want to do it this year. And I thought, I can't have you do it, not me. And then 6 of my friends joined us, and we formed Clark's running team, and we raised, I think it was somewhere about £18,000 between us. That included a race night, which was a massive success, Super Clark's race night. And now we've got the Super Clark's golf day again, and that's on the 28th of July. And we're going to raise some brilliant money again. And now it's just going to be my life's ambition to support the charity, to try and help somebody else not go through what I've been through. And just my strap line is, when I always do my speech, I just say, that every dad should leave the hospital holding his wife's hand and carrying his baby in the other. And I think that's what we should all try to do. So, so that's me. And I'm keen to get involved with the charity as much as I can.
That's brilliant, Stuart. Thank you. And I know how difficult it is to talk about what happened. And you've powered forward, and the work you've done in the marathon has been extraordinary. And I know we're going to have more conversations about the marathon going forward, and looking forward to that. But Stuart, you did an incredible job, and your team was just brilliant this year. And I know Mark and I met with you beforehand and were completely bowled over by what you're doing. So we're looking forward to working with you, and I'm particularly looking forward to coming up to Scotland in the summer and seeing you guys. And we might sink a drink or two, mightn't we?
There's every chance that'll happen, big man. I'll take care of you.
Yeah. Now, Elliot, I'm seeing you in a couple of weeks' time. It's 7:30 in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah, Saturday as well. Apologies for that.
I don't think we're going to be having a beer at 7:30 in the morning, are we?
No. Maybe at the end of the day, but definitely not at the start.
Yeah. So what are we going to do then?
Yeah. So we're walking from. I don't know how long you're joining for, but me and my friend Al are walking from Bristol down to Taunton. It's about a 60-mile journey for the route we're taking to sort of symbolise my son's journey home. My son Ethan was born about 5.5 years ago now. He was born in Taunton, where we live now. And obviously my wife had pre-eclampsia, which was something we didn't hear of until she was diagnosed with it. And then Ethan was born sort of around 12 hours later. So it was a very, she had HELLP syndrome as well, like Paul said. It was, had to be delivered there and then. Unfortunately, she got that at 25 weeks. So he was born extremely prematurely. And ideally, she'd have been moved up to the Bristol hospital, because the Taunton neonatal unit doesn't take kids as small as Ethan. But she was so, she was in such a vulnerable position, she couldn't be moved. So Ethan had to be born in Taunton as well. And then soon after he was born, me and Ethan moved up to the Bristol hospital and had to leave Heidi, suffering quite badly in Taunton, until she was ready to come up to Bristol herself about 4 or 5 days later. So it was quite a scary time. It then sort of seemed to get worse with Ethan's prematurity related issues. It actually took us a full year to get back from Bristol to Taunton hospital, and then a further sort of 5 months to get discharged from the Taunton hospital back to home. Around 7 months old, he was still in intensive care at 7 months old with severe lung problems related to prematurity, and then got some sort of bug which turned into sepsis, which caused a severe global brain damage. So he is now, he's quadriplegic, got quadriplegic cerebral palsy, and has other medical issues related to that. But he's a very, very happy young lad. So we've adapted the house and things for him, and he goes to school now and has all his friends and things. So there's a lot of charities involved in his life who support him day to day and support him moving forwards, with equipment and things. And when we decided to do this walk with my friend Al, so it had quite a lot of charities to choose from, but we had to go back to the start, really, is where it all began, which is pre-eclampsia, which is how we came across action on pre-eclampsia.
We're delighted to have you on board, Elliot, and I know that two words that keep coming up whenever you and I have talked about Ethan is smiling and fighting, and that's his story, isn't it?
Yeah. I think anyone who meets him comments on his smile, because he can't see very well, we don't think, but his hearing's really good, and as soon as someone engages with him, he just lights up. So yeah, he's a very special young lad.
Yes. Thanks very much. I want to move on the conversation ever so slightly. I want to talk about what pre-eclampsia and HELLP syndrome actually means as a dad, and how you guys were with your partners, and what happened. And Paul, I want to start with you, because we've mentioned the book, which is out on Monday, and there's going to be links on our website from Monday, called HELLP, I'm Going to Be a Dad, a play on the word help. But let's start with you, and what did it mean to you as a dad, and your experience of fatherhood to find yourself in this position?
Yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking at the time because all I wanted to do was cry, but I felt like I had to be strong for not only Lauren, but both our sets of family. Because when everyone's sort of, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, the moment where she has to sign the documents to say, you know, if the worst happened, her organs could be donated. And she says, would I feel it if I die? I mean, those kind of moments stay with you. And I think as men, I think I can speak for men, or speak for myself. We want to be the rock. We want to make sure everyone's okay, and we don't speak. I could have reached out to friends and told them what happened, but I just felt like I couldn't, and I didn't want to burden anybody else with it. So you just deal with it internally. But it ends up showing itself in other ways. So for me, it was, for most, lockdown was probably a traumatic experience for most people. People lost loved ones and things like that. I mean, I appreciate that. For me, it was like tranquility. Hunter was born on Boxing Day 2019, came home just before lockdown because he was in intensive care and special care. So I went through the whole antenatal period through to the IC wards and going up and down, work, traveling, and still trying to spin normal life. And I think that was the hardest part, still trying to spin normal life, working, seeing Lauren, make sure she's okay, but then also going to the hospital to see my boy morning, night, and actually other things started to take its toll, like mentally, in terms of, I was just going. It was autopilot. I was just going, burning out, and actually probably to detriment of my loved ones. And they saw changes in me, which I didn't realize. Paul, you're being so snappy, like Paul, like you barely smile anymore. And these are things that come naturally. I'm always smiling. And it's only when I took a step back and just took a deep breath, I realized, yeah, I am burnt out. I put on loads of weight. I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't going to the gym. And simple things like me going to the barber once every 2 weeks, that was like therapy, but I'll stop doing even that. And I think it was the importance of having some alone time, this time for yourself, trying to find that half an hour in the day, maybe a week, where it's just about you, because that's the only way you can be of service and value to my son, partner, and family. But no, help syndrome, yeah, a massive toll on me, on the family. But I've come out the other end. And writing the book was actually therapy for me. At first, I thought I was just writing just to write, and then I ended up realizing, oh no, I need to write this. This is my output. I'm channeling feelings, and actually, it made me realize, yes, the future is my son, Hunter, my family, but I have to go back and deal with stuff that happened in my childhood. So I was dealing with, not having a dad around. So that informs how I'm going to be a dad to Hunter, because automatically there's the missing chapters of my childhood that my son will automatically get. I will be there, and when he's doing I'm doing the dad's race. I'll be there when he wants to learn how to play football. I'll be there. He can fall, I'll catch him. Whereas those kind of things I didn't have. So when I even found out I was going to be a dad, it was like, right, who do I didn't have that dad to go, oh, dad, what's it like? And help me out here. Because you want it from a male perspective. And I'm hoping things like this we can do more of. The book can help, obviously, encourage us as men to talk to one another and empower each other to express our feelings, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine to be macho. It's fine to be an alpha male. It's fine to be a traditional guy who wants to take care of that. All that is absolutely fine. But also it's fine to cry in front of men. It's fine to talk about our vulnerabilities and anxieties, because we have far more in common than we think.
I think you're absolutely right. And that talking is so important. Elliot, I'd like to hear some of your perspectives on this.
Yeah, well, pre-eclampsia, what it is to me.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just, the unknown, complete unknown. I think, we're into hospital for a long time. I spoke to a lot of other parents. A lot of people have gone through, were there for similar reasons to us. The common thread was that no one had ever heard of it before. And we said, remember saying to someone, I don't remember reading this part in the baby book, and if that chapter was in there, I probably wouldn't have read it anyway, because you don't want to think about that. And I think, which is quite naive of me, and it's not how I obviously think now. That making it so it's not an unknown, it's just so important. I think it could have changed our situation so much. Could have let Heidi, have more time in hospital, more time of, being given medications that would have benefited Ethan when he was born, and all that side of things. So yeah, I think that's the scary bit for me, is that there's other people out there who could be walking into the exact same situation, who don't have the background knowledge, right? And now I'm on this path with you guys. I'm a lot more aware of it. So we knew of pre-eclampsia for 12 hours before Ethan was born, and then the next life-changing event happened, and Ethan came along, and all the focus turned to him. And pre-eclampsia wasn't something we came back to too much. We didn't talk about the day of his birth too much, or what happened, in the 12 hours before, 12 hours after. But in doing this whole process, writing the Just Given page, there's things I wrote in there that I'd never spoken to Heidi about before, my wife Heidi. And that's quite, it's been 5 years of me not sharing my story, and not, which someone else could have benefited from. So I think, a lot more needs to be spoken about it and shared about it. I think that's important. We're actually expecting our third child now. Heidi as well.
Congratulations.
The 12-week scan, thank you, last week or the week before. And I did walk around the waiting room looking for information on pre-eclampsia, and there wasn't anything. So I will be writing a message. I'll write an email to the hospital, because I do find it bizarre that maternity wards and places don't have any information on it, or in our location anyway.
Well, we'll certainly be changing that, Elliot.
Yeah.
But Elliot, one thing I want to talk to you about is that you were in the neonatal intensive care unit for a very long time. You will have seen families come and go. But what about the relationships you built with other dads? Were you able to do that? Were you able to have those conversations and sort of have that shared experience? And how helpful was that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the person I'm doing the walk with is a fellow dad from NICU, his son Archie. Ethan got moved to the children's hospital at 7 months old, because he sort of outgrew the neonatal hospital, and his son Archie was moved. They're born within a couple of weeks with each other, and then his son Archie moved to the children's hospital the day after Ethan did. So pretty much the whole time in hospital, they were together until Archie was discharged at around 10 or 11 months. So, we got very, very close with his parents, Alan and Laura, and Al's going to be doing the walk with me. And then there's another group, I think we call ourselves the NICU Ninjas, because it was just a term we coined when we were in NICU together. And there's, a good group of us that we all still meet up. Unfortunately, one of the children isn't with us anymore, but all the parents meet up, and the children, if they're there, they come along too, and they're all in sort of different stages of their lives and their journeys after being born so premature. But that group was really, because we were in Bristol, in charity accommodation in Bristol, so we're the only ones, I think. Maybe we weren't the only ones, but there was a couple of us there who were living in charity accommodation at the Bristol Hospital, quite a way away from home, for a long period of time. And that group of parents who were there were a massive support. And the dads, we used to meet up and go to the pub and things, and talk through our shared woes, really, because we're all going through a very traumatic experience and living it at the same time. So it's a really unique thing to go through with a random bunch of people. But to Paul's point, it's not something I particularly went into detail with my friends about.
Is that 7 months you did that for, Elliot?
Sorry, say that again.
So that's 7 months you did that for in the accommodation?
No, it's a full year. It was 7 months in the accommodation in the first hospital, the neonatal hospital he was in, and then we moved over to the Bristol Children's Hospital and spent 5 months there. Yeah, before he got moved back to Taunton. So it's quite significant disruption. I was lucky, but the company I worked for was amazingly supportive. So I had quite a significant time of work. And then worked from up there when I needed to, but yeah, it was obviously quite a disruption. I mean, having a child, as we all know, is a disruption anyway. Throwing that into the mix it was just an insane time. And it's something, if someone had said at the start, this is how long it's going to be, I wouldn't have been able to face it. But you don't know that at the start, and you just go through the days and the weeks, and you just get to the end. But yeah, it wasn't a good time, to say the least.
I hear you, man.
Appreciate that, Stuart. It's quite clear from what I've got to know of you. You've got that bunch of mates around you who have been really supportive, and to have so many of them running the marathon this year was extraordinary. But how did you cope with it all, and what did pre-eclampsia mean to you as a dad?
Well, like I said, unfortunately, unfortunately, we went through like a similar situation with my first kid. He was born at 29 weeks, so we were very familiar with the ICU unit, and obviously that was the first time it happened. So we were like, it was just so, even though it was 29 weeks and he was 3 pounds. I mean, geez, if we could got that the second time, we'd have snapped your hand off it now, because we didn't know it was around the corner. But we're just so used to it. I mean, I can even now I'm talking, I can just hear all the machines and the beeping noises and all that. They're just ingrained in my head, man. Like, I'm just so used to walking in and then just hearing them, and just like, it just became like, I read a poem one time, and it was like that. One of the lines was, "The unique hospital smell, my new kind of hell." And I thought that was it. That was my kind of hell. Listening to that smell, and that smell, and it's just so consistent in my head, man. And yeah, I guess for me that was the second time around. It was like I just couldn't believe I was back again, And I was just so used to doing it, I just was like, you get up, you go to the hospital, you stay for a while. Sometimes I go with Amy, sometimes she goes herself. I'm self-employed, so sometimes I had to go and do a little bit of work and stuff, So it was just like a really challenging time. I guess what pre-eclampsia means to me, obviously it's just, I understand the severity of it, and I obviously understand all the problems and the heartache that it can ultimately cause a family. But there's my wife there. Amy, do you want to say hello? You can see the camera.
Hello. Hi, y'all.
Hiya, you all right?
I'm good. How's you?
Yeah, fine, thanks. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again as well.
Yeah, look after yourself.
You too.
Cheers.
So, yeah, I just obviously, because of that, obviously, I understand just all the sort of problems that it caused, and I guess for me, I didn't really know what I was dealing with after it. I didn't have a clue actually. I say I was just so new to you when you're dealing with these things. It was new when first time Camden was in the hospital. It was new when my son was in the hospital. My second son was in the hospital when he was even smaller. It was new when we lost him for the first time. I didn't really know anything, and I just knew that how upset we all were. We were heartbroken, obviously, and I just felt like I just need to be tough and strong and all these things that I guess Paul, you mentioned. I do agree with everything you said there, and just for me, I just convinced myself that I was just going to be tough and I would just deal with my own way, and I just kind of did, and I just kind of stuck. I get back to work as fast as I could. I just kind of, did I block it out? I don't know. And then I was always into a bit of amateur fitness. So I was always just trying to keep as fit as I could, and Mark will know that well. I just thought without that, I could have done a really slippery slope. And I just kept myself as fit and as active as possible. And by doing that, I guess I gained some form of mental toughness that helped me survive and be a good dad to my current son and be there to support my wife and do all the things that you should be doing as a man, as a dad, and somebody that's been through all this.
I completely understand where you're coming from, Stuart.
And on another wee small note as well, we get told like if we get pregnant again, that there would be a 50% chance that we would go through the same road again. And I just thought I just can't gamble my kids' lives again or my wife's life again, just playing at Russian roulette with them. So we decided that we would try and go down the IVF route and to get a surrogate. And a surrogate's magically come into our lives and we went down the IVF route, and our surrogate, who is now a friend of ours, is now 25, 26 weeks pregnant. 28, sorry, darling. And we're expecting our baby the 21st of August.
Brilliant. That's wonderful news, Stuart. Congratulations to you all.
Yeah. So it's just a wee bit of news, I guess, about a little journey with pre-eclampsia.
Understand. Thank you for that. Mark, how about you?
I just want to say, before I dive into what I want to talk about, the courage here being shown is absolutely incredible. And anyone watching back, like, this is so hard to do. Like I've mentioned, I work with dads online as a fitness coach, and I speak to dads with numerous different problems in their lives and things. And Paul mentioned it, like the mask that we often put up and just deal with it and don't put our problems out into the world. It's so hard to do, so hard to do. So this is absolutely incredible. And I'm truly inspired just by even being in this room. It is incredible. But from my point of view, with my experience with it, it was very much like the lads. I had no idea. Like, I was young. I had, I just didn't know what was right, what was normal. All I knew was that my wife wasn't very well. Like, she was constantly being sick, and she was constantly going back and forth to the doctors. And the real scary thing, looking back at it, is we were constantly getting told it's a sickness bug, like go home, you'll be fine. And it's like that looking back at it now, that's really scary. The fact that nothing was picked up until things got so bad. We ended up going to the walk-in center, and she had her blood pressure taken, and it was stupidly, scarily high. Like, and they were like, whoa, like, you need to go to the hospital right now. That's where, obviously, again, we had no idea. Nothing was even spoken about pre-eclampsia. The words weren't even mentioned. Obviously, I knew something was wrong, and it was scary. But I remember she was kept in that night. I went home that night because they said they're going to just keep an eye on her overnight. And I woke up the next morning to a message to say they're going to bring the baby today. And I was like, again, just didn't know what to do. I remember ringing my mom, and I was crying. I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is not normal. But again, similar to a lot of the lads, felt like I had to go to the hospital and be strong and be like, everything's fine. And they ended up inducing her to try and be able to start the process. And that was a very long day. Sat in the room, again, not really having a clue what was going on. We were in a high dependency unit, doctors coming in and out all the time. I was with her mum, and honestly, I think from the outside, everyone was panicking because we're like, what's going on? In the room, it was actually quite chilled, but it began because of the lack of awareness. We just didn't know what was going on. It wasn't until there was probably about 4 or 5 doctors and a lot of junior doctors in the room where we were going, okay, maybe this is quite serious. And then it got to about 4 a.m. and they said, look, emergency C-section, like this has got to happen now. And that is obviously, like a lot of lads have said, the real scary moment, because you're tired, you've been up for how many hours, and you just don't know what's going to happen. So I guess what pre-eclampsia means to me, similar to the lads as well, like, I haven't really spoken about it, or we haven't really shared or spoken about our story like publicly or to many people until we started doing the charity stuff, until we started being able to relate, because you don't have anyone to talk to about it because they've not been through it. So what stands out for me is almost the lack of awareness, even within the hospital setting, as like, there's like, Elliot, you said there's no leaflets, there's no awareness of this. And that is quite scary, to be honest, because like I said, with you not knowing it at all, then it can really hit you like a ton of bricks. And like we said, as men, we can really, really suffer, but we have to be the strong ones. That's our kind of mentality. But I know, even from me talking about this more on my social media now, being involved in this charity, I've had guys that worked with me or followed me on social media that have come to me and gone, this I've experienced this, like, thank you for sharing it. And then all of a sudden there's a connection. So the important thing of raising awareness and being able to speak about this more is so important. And that's really kind of my background of what it means to me and why it's so important to do things like this.
Thanks, Mark. And I think what you're saying there is something really important, that we are, as fathers and as partners, able to be voices during a really tricky time. And Elliot, I wanted to bring you back in on this one ever slightly. You went through a substantial period of being in hospital, but not in hospital yourself. How do you feel your role as a dad and as an advocate for your other half was, and how easy was it, do you think, to advocate for them and to get change? And what would you like to have seen done differently, if anything?
I guess
it's a big area of questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the experience in hospital with Ethan, from that side of things, being an advocate for Ethan was very different to when Heidi was in hospital that short period of time, because we were in there for a long period of time. We got to know the nurses and the doctors and got to know Ethan really well, and built up that rapport, and we were listened to a lot when we had concerns. But I did feel that when Heidi was in hospital, I was completely overlooked, and there was things, towards the the point up until Ethan was born, Heidi was sort of declining, and I wouldn't say getting delirious, but definitely getting muddled and things. And she'd been given magnesium and different drugs and stuff which were affecting her. So they were asking questions, and there was things that Heidi was replying, which I remember thinking, that's not correct, or she's sort of glossing over it. And so I tried to get involved and try to answer, and would just be completely overlooked and shut down. So, I think there's definitely times where both sides of it need to be taken into account, because when you're living something, it's easy to look over something, but when you're viewing something, you pick up different things, and so different things need to be considered, I'd say.
Thanks for that. And Paul, I want to bring you in, because I think in the book you go into quite a lot of detail about how you felt you were treated, and I'd be really interested to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so at various stages through the because it kind of felt like I was camping at the hospital. Each day, it's a bit like Christmas time. You forget what day it is, not because you're almost detached from the real world. So certain instances happened where it's almost playing tricks on me, as if, is this supposed to happen? It's not supposed to happen, or maybe it's just the fact that I've got a chip on my shoulder. Things like on the incubator, my last name not being attached to my son's name, but maybe that's supposed to be that way. I didn't know, but I just saw it as, hey, I'm here, I want to be present, I'm active. I was here throughout the whole process. But then in the Red Book, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of, it's got, the gestation, name, all that kind of stuff. But under the ethnicity part, they had labeled him white, my son white. Obviously, I'm not white, so he's obviously mixed race. But for me, that was, I didn't get it. One, he's almost 3 months premature, so regardless of what ethnicity, they're going to be quite fair. Plus, he was jaundiced as well. And I was like, I'm here every day. Like, I'm here, I'm present, I'm there. I didn't understand how or why they would have put ethnicity of white when he's got a black dad. So lazy, sloppy at best, subtle microaggression, racist elements, maybe. But yeah, I took deep offense to it, because that's almost whitewashing my son. Again, I mentioned chip on the shoulder. That's from a place of me not having an active dad who wants to be active. I overcompensate. So those little things are massive things to me. This is from a perception perspective as well. I want to be seen as a good dad. I want to see, because I am, and I'm a loving dad. So those little things, yeah, it did impact my enjoyment of it. It just felt like another challenge. It felt like I was challenged at every point. The pregnancy was going well, then pre-eclampsia hits, challenge. Then it's HELLP syndrome, challenge. Then it's so many different challenges. And I mean, some of the experiences that the fellow dads here have had, I can't even relate to. I can definitely empathize, but I couldn't even imagine. But those instances did mar the whole experience a little bit for me. It did.
I want to dig just ever so slightly deeper into this, because this is really important. So,
Sure.
how did you combat that? And those microaggressions, that racism that you perceived, which was clearly very real. How did you get over that?
Well, it's hard, right? Because then there's also the stereotype of the angry black man. So my initial emotion was anger, like utter anger. Who do I have to speak to about this? And you want to just go crazy. And again, that's the bottom of emotions from what I'm going through as well. So just add to that, that was like the fuse to spark me going mad. So I did, but I done it in a different way. I asked for the senior person in the ward, and I pulled them aside in the area and just said, look, I'm not happy. Like, how's this happened? It's lazy. I'm deeply offended. It's a lazy assumption. And I want it changed. And I want an apology, actually, because it's amazing that no matter how angry you are, sometimes there's someone saying sorry and it's an acknowledgement of that. That's probably enough. It's when you're making excuses. And at first it was like, oh, they didn't know. And I had to say, stop making excuses. Own it. Own it at the end of the day. Just say you're sorry and I'll feel a lot better. But yeah, I mean, the whole name thing, which again, that could be me probably overreacting, but my name wasn't attached to the baby, so I felt offended. But then that one as well, I was like, no, are they trying to gaslight me into going crazy or something? But no, I managed to overcome that with just skin to skin with my boy. At the end of the day, skin to skin with my boy. And I mean, the dads will all know, there's something magical just about that. Definitely from my perspective. I mean, to have my son there, any stresses or woes, it just got released. Even to this day, bad day at work, just that, laying on me, that bond and that connection is powerful.
Yeah. And Mark, for you, this all came very, very quickly. This was very, very fast, and it sounds as though you didn't know really what was going on. How were you able to best advocate for your family?
Yeah, it's difficult because on one side you just became a dad, and the excitement, the joy and thrill of that, and I got to be able to hold Jack. He was £4.2, so he was absolutely tiny. But I remember they pulled me through to the room whilst my wife was still on the table for the operation, and obviously then they said, look, go and take it out to your partner, and I did. But because she was so scared, because she was out of it completely, there was no, it was hard for me to be able to watch, because there was no almost emotional connection to it. She was so scared about her of that, and then of course Jack had to go off to the neonatal unit, or the care straight away. And then it was like a split, because it's like my partner's on the table there, like fearing for her life, but my son's just being born here. And I basically found myself having to go, well, who do I go with? Like, what do I do? What do I do? They and again, I was in that moment where I was like, okay, I'll go with my son, so I know where he's going, because I don't know where they're taking him. And they did advise, they said, look, you can come back and see your partner as soon as possible. So yeah, I remember holding them, and I felt like it was difficult, because of course usually that the mum gets that first initial connection, that emotional connection, but Leah really struggled with that, because obviously she was in recovery. She was in a separate room to Jack. He was down the corridor. She couldn't get up and walk straight away. So I had the elation of being a dad and like he's here and all that sort of stuff. And we were very lucky compared to some of these guys here. Like Jack was in for 10 days and didn't have huge complications and was very strong from the get-go. But them initial days where Leah wasn't able to move and Leah was recovering, still had blood pressure problems afterwards, it was difficult, because I could see there was no real connection initially from mother to baby, and it did take time, and something that she still struggles with today mentally, because it was very, very difficult at that time. So I think that was my experience at that time. It's just been split from like the immense joy to the immense worry. And that is really, really difficult to know where to put yourself and what's right to do.
Yeah, understand completely. And I'm Stuart, your experience was very different from Mark's because you were in this for a second round effectively. So you knew a bit more about the way around the system, you knew a bit more about the way around the hospital, but how were you able to advocate in what was a very difficult situation for you?
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, like I said, like I felt like I'd been around the block already. Cam was in intensive care. He was maybe for about 3 months. I think he was in for about 2. He was so strong. He'd done so well. But unfortunately, when Camden was born, he got bounced about from hospital to hospital because they couldn't find a bed for him to support him. So he ended up getting taken about 25 mile away. And that's where he remained for a long period. And we were travelling at 25 mile there and 25 mile back every single day. And we just didn't want to leave his side, obviously, as our parents. And that was really tough, you know. Then the second time round, we were in, well, I live just in the outskirts of Glasgow. We were in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow. And that's got one of the best ICUs in the whole country. It's a brand new hospital, Scotland's biggest hospital. And I just felt like it was just such a familiar setting, unfortunately. And I just switched right back into type. You know, I'd been there before. I knew the drill. I knew how you sign in. I know how you get in. I know how you clean your hands. It's just like I just knew the full. I knew you befriend the people next to you. They're all in the same situation. There was a lot of twins there. There was twins there the last time. Oh, there was just so many similarities. But I just was like, you know, maybe arrogantly confident that it's my son, he will be fine, he will be strong. We are getting out here as a family of 4. You know, I was absolutely convinced. I was convinced in my head. I was just so, maybe not always in my head. I was just trying to convince my wife that everything was going to be okay. You know, even though because he was doing so well initially, he was doing brilliant initially, and then unfortunately, he just took such a bad turn one day, and his wee lungs couldn't handle it, and it was really tough. But what I was going to say to during the process, just, you know, what Mark was saying, I completely relate to, and Paul and Elliot, of course. I was related to everything what you guys are saying on this. It's such a nice experience to speak to you guys because I feel like it's so hard to find somebody that's actually had any sort of similarities to what I've been through. However, what Mark was saying was, you know, it's hard to split between the happiness and the worry. The first time it was so stressful because we hadn't been through it before, but we had a positive outcome. But the second time we knew it was so much worse, and I guess it was so hard to be happy watching my son struggle and fighting for his life, you know. But to split between Amy in recovery, who'd almost went into a coma and almost died, her blood pressure was so high, her face was all swollen up. She just looked unrecognisable. She was in such a bad condition. To her pulling through, and then initially my son doing quite well, but it was just me trying to split my time between supporting her and then reporting back to her about how he's doing and all that, and then just hopefully she got to see him, and then we could just start the process of getting him out of hospital and get back to some form of new norm for however long it was going to be. You know yourself, like what Elliot was saying with work and everything else, I just didn't have a clue what was around the corner. It was just such a stressful, terrible time, you know, and we were just, you know, so looking forward to a positive outcome. But I just felt like it's such an emotionally draining, difficult, stressful experience that, you know, obviously I would never want to wish on anybody, and I guess that's why I'm here, and I want to help.
Thanks very much, Stuart. And I think that we're into our last few minutes of this, and it's been a fascinating conversation. So, but I want to come back to all of you guys to ask 2 really simple questions, and those are: what single lesson would you want the National Health Service to hear from your experience? What one single lesson? And the second thing is, how's the future looking for you? What's next? So, Mark, can I start with you on that one?
Yeah, I think the lesson, is going to come down to awareness. That, as we've discussed a lot, it's just even though we were going through what was pre-eclampsia and what we didn't know at the time, I don't know from my experience whether it was like they wanted to not panic us at that time, or it was just that they didn't find out until it happened. I don't know. But I'm sure all the lads here will agree. The unknown and the uncertainty is horrible. And that is something that I believe that it needs to be made aware of. Like, there needs to be some sort of thought process behind it with regards to anything that could possibly go wrong. Because the second time for my second son, obviously the checks and everything were a lot higher with Leah, and we had a lot more clarity on what to potentially expect. The first time it was, non-existent. So that would be the lesson, is I think clarity and awareness. And it's not easy, but actually having awareness of something like this and what could happen, and education maybe more behind it, I think is so important. And then with regards to me, obviously I've run the London Marathon, which was an incredible experience. And I'm always pushing myself physically because that's what I do, and I always have done for a good while. But really, what's next for me is working with you guys and continuing to support everything that I do with my platform, continue to build this relationship, and even talk of the London Marathon again next year, getting a few of the guys that I work with to get involved with as well, bring a bit of a team in together for that. So yeah, I'm excited because, like I said, and the lads have said here as well, just being able to speak about your experience, but then like I can see when we're speaking about certain things, everyone's like, yeah, that's me. And that's what's so powerful, even with my job, with what I do and helping dads, just, with not just a fitness aspect, from a mindset point of view, having some sort of community, having some sort of level of communication with like-minded individuals is so powerful. And that's why this is incredible, because there are going to be people watching in on this that have experienced similar things or similar stories. And it's almost like a weight lifted up from your shoulders, because you're like, oh, it's not just me. Like I had that feeling. And as soon as you get that, not just from this aspect, but in any part of your life, it's incredible to have that. It's incredibly powerful. So I'm excited to continue to work together and see what we can do together.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mark. Elliot, how about you? What lesson would you like? And you've talked a little bit about the future. So I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, mine's very similar to Mark. It's the information and informing people. I think, the helplessness around, that you feel around pre-eclampsia when it comes, and looking at the symptoms and thinking, well, that's been happening for 3 weeks. And, my wife had seen a midwife twice. Similar, I can't remember, I think it was Mark used it about, coming out and being told it's just a sickness bug. We had exactly the same thing. And it meant we assumed it was a sickness bug. And, when she was being sick more, when she was feeling worse, we said, it's a sickness bug. You'll get over it in a couple of days. And, I think even if they didn't think it's pre-eclampsia, if they could see, okay, well, maybe there's a small chance it's pre-eclampsia. Yeah, it's a low-risk pregnancy. It's early. It's unlikely, but it could be. This is some information around it. If you notice these things happening, come back. There was none of that. It wasn't even mentioned. And it seems so obvious to us now, 2-3 weeks before, that it was pre-eclampsia. So I think that sort of informing people and spreading the knowledge and awareness, and just, I guess, empowering people to do something about themselves outside of relying on charities, I think is, I think that's really important. I think as far as the future goes, it's, we've got the walk in a week and a half. So once we've recovered from that, it'll be, I guess, a lot more sleepless nights once our third child comes, and more sleep deprivation, looking after the family, balancing.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Absolutely.
From my point of view, I don't think this is the first charity event I've really done, but I definitely won't be the last. And I'm looking forward to working with you guys again in the future.
Fantastic, and looking forward to joining you on at the start of the walk in a week or so's time. So thanks very much for that, Elliot. Stuart, what about you? What single lesson would you be wanting to get across?
Well, I guess for me, I agree with obviously the points that Mark and Elliot have raised. The awareness is massive. I'd never heard of it before in my life until it happened to me, but now I want to be an advocate of it. I'm very open about it. I talk about it regular. People always ask me how many sons I've got. I always answer 2, regardless how awkward it would make somebody feel. You know, and I just tell them he's not alive anymore. I'm so open about it, and I just feel that that's important. And I feel that, you know, it's something we should be discussed. But I guess that's how I felt mentally sane, because I talk about it all the time. If you look at my social media, it's on there constantly, and we are very open about it. You know, I stand up every event we do, and I talk about what Pre-Eclampsia is. I talk about how your charity was founded. So yeah, definitely we need to talk about it more and spread the message that this is such an important subject to cover. But I guess for me, I'd like to know what budget's been put in from the NHS for preventative measure of pre-eclampsia. I want to know what's been spent to help research into seeing like for us, I mean, our boy died because if he stayed in Amy's tummy a little bit longer, maybe he could have survived. And they did everything they could. I mean, the NHS was brilliant. Every tool that they had, they used on Amy. They used in Clark to help him live. But I just think maybe if he could stay in Amy's tummy for another day or 2 days or 3 days, could the outcome have been different? I want to know what preventative money's been spent on research and preventative measures on pre-eclampsia has been spent, and I want to know how we can increase it.
I think
because if we can increase it, somebody's baby might survive one day when mine's never, and that's why I want to raise the money.
Yeah,
and
understand and appreciate that.
And I know that you guys, and hopefully maybe the money we raised as well, help bring in a test for the Scottish women, so that women in Scotland can be pre-screened and pre-checked for pre-eclampsia when this has only come into play due to the hard work of yourself, Marcus, and the team, and maybe the money we've all raised. But that's something here in this country that you guys have done, and obviously, I mean, hopefully we can see a wee tiny part of that, you know, and I'm proud of that, obviously, as well. So I feel that that's important, and I feel that's a step forward, but I'd like to know what more we've got preventive measures. For me, my next challenge is we're doing the Super Clark Golf Day, guys. So if anyone's wanting to play golf and come up to sunny Glasgow, there's a space in the golf day, and that's for anybody. We had a massive day last year, over 100 golfers. We raised £8,000 on the day. So we'll be doing it again. That'll be going towards the Super Clarks Fund, maybe get us on the start line next year. We're in the London Marathon again, if you'll have us. We want to know how many spaces we can get. I think we can definitely grow the Super Clarks running team. All the guys want to do it again. So we're really, really, really positive. I want to get involved in the charity. I want to help run your social media campaign. I want to bring in new sponsors and bring in more, quality people like Elliot and Paul and Mark and yourself into the charity. I want to help grow your charity, Marcus. I'm a hungry individual, and I can add a lot. There's no.
I know you can.
I'm entrepreneurial and I'm hungry and I want to do that. And the last thing I've got is we've got a baby due in August, and it's all going well. So I'm fingers crossed we're going to be a family of 5, but a family of 4 here in planet Earth.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stuart. We're going to work with you closely over the next few months and just make sure that happens. Now, Paul, final word to you.
No, I mean, I share Stuart, Mark, and Elliot's sentiments regarding awareness. Whoever goes through pre-eclampsia, it's usually the first time they've even heard of it, and that's a problem. It's known as a silent killer. It needs as much noise made about it as possible. So I'm still baffled as to why it's not part of the sort of pregnancy journey from day one. And guys, this is what happens, and this is going to be a journey through week X and Y. Also, there's a little thing called pre-eclampsia, and this is what it is, and the symptoms are this. So at least then, for instance, for me, it happened when we were in Amsterdam. We went for our little baby moon holiday before Hunter was due 3 months later. And we had Googled sort of, because she had symptoms of being puffy hands, puffy face. We got checked out before we went. They said, no, she's fine to go. And then it obviously unraveled over there, but it shouldn't have taken that. And it's almost as if the GPs and midwives have almost like a flippant approach to it. So I'm not sure whether more education needs to be done throughout that journey in order to make them realize, actually, I get it, some of these are cold symptoms and stuff, but guess what? As we've testament today, it can kill. It can kill, and it's serious, and it can change your life like that. So yeah, and also I think more active spaces for dads, the partners or the families of people, the women that are going through it, to talk. Because again, it can be very isolating. I felt isolated, I felt alone. But there's spaces available in hospitals for dads just to maybe grab a coffee and just chat. That can only be of benefit. What it looks like for me moving forward, again, with the guys, I want to be this is like a brotherhood, parenthood. I feel like I'm a part of something. It's funny, anybody I know who's pregnant or expecting a child, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is pre-eclampsia, pre-eclampsia, pre-eclampsia. Look out for pre-eclampsia. These are the symptoms, and take one aspirin a day and make sure. And it's funny because the last 3 people that went through that journey, they all end up having pre-eclampsia. And they basically blame me for it. They say, Paul, you hexed us. And I'm like, no, but again, these are the symptoms. And, thank God that you did go through my experience. I'm hoping the book raises as much awareness as possible. And I just want to work closely with APEC and actually get involved in maybe the marathon and things like that as well. So I'm here to be used. Use me.
Fantastic. That's all absolutely brilliant. Guys, it's been a real joy and a real pleasure to spend an hour chatting things through. We've covered some really difficult topics, and it's not been easy, I know, for any of you to open up in the way you have. And I'm hoping that what we've created tonight is a little pot of gold, which others can learn from, others can see what it actually means, because as dads, our voice isn't heard often enough. And I was very, very keen that as we run up to World Pre-Eclampsia Day next week, that we were heard. And I think we have been tonight. And I really just want to thank you all very much. And to anybody who's watching, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking part, and thank you for your involvement. You can find out much more on our website. apec.org.uk is the website. All our socials are linked from there. So please follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, get involved, and hopefully we will see you on other events soon. So thank you all very much. Thank you.